Guys, welcome back to Quick Notes with Chris. Today we're going to be talking about the book Managing Oneself by Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker. It's an awesome book. It really talks about the sort of success traits whenever it comes to great achievers and significant people in other industries, and what he noticed they've done himself, he's done, and how you can apply it in your life in order to make sure that you're actually working in the industry that aligns with your skill set. So the first thing that it understands that the book talks about is capitalizing on your own strengths. See, any successful person, if you look at no matter what business they're in, what type of industry they are, no matter how celebrity or not, every one of them is a walking flaw in terms of the fact that they have a bunch of flaws. The difference is that they actually put aside their flaws, they minimize them, and maximized on their strengths. The book talks about understanding what it is that your strengths truly are, and it's really difficult in this time because it talks about how the schooling system is generalized. It has general blanket teaching, and no matter what, you basically learn the same way, and if it's not effective to you, it's unfortunate. So he really talks about taking time away. He says roughly about 3 years max dedicated to figuring out what your strengths, your rules, your beliefs, and your morals are, and then planning a career around that. So what he says is, have a goal. Start off with a goal, something that you're looking towards achieving in a year's time. Now, after the year's time, evaluate. So every single month, look at what you achieved and take a step back and then realize if you were falling short or you overseeded your expectations. Depending on what that was, depends on your type of learning style and what you're able to achieve in a year's time. If you were to do this every year for 3 years, then you'd be able to set out a consistent stock take on what exactly you were able to invest and what you were able to achieve year after year after year. In fact, you could find a really consistent ability on what you're looking to achieve, whether it's monetary, whether it's skill set wise, whether it's relationship wise, you name it, or business wise, your projects and stuff like that. If you attribute it over a 3-year period, even though you evaluate every single year, you'll very quickly understand how it is that you're learning, the more effective years than the others, what it is that you're able to achieve in that time frame, because a lot of people actually do overestimate what they're able to achieve in 10 years, underestimate what they're able to achieve in 10 years, and drastically overestimate what they can achieve in a year. So if you're on the money and you understand exactly what you're looking to achieve year after year, it should subtly increase, then you should definitely be able to understand it. That's called feedback analysis. So it's comparing your results to your initial expectations. Do it through a 12-month period, across 3 years in a row, step back and evaluate, and then that way you'll have a very clear index on what you're able to achieve. The next thing that it talks about is understanding how it is that you learn. Now, in school, there's so many different ways that students learn. But unfortunately, they basically have a blanket one. And it talks about a teacher reading a stimulus to you, and you take notes. That's generally how it works. But so many people learn different ways. For example, by doing, by listening, by reading, visually, you name it, everybody's a little bit unique. And understanding how you can learn can understand basically how you can effectively take in knowledge. And that's the unfortunate thing between generalized and specialized knowledge. So make sure that you're distinct in which one that you exactly know how it is that you learn, and you might find that you're more dominant in other areas, and depending on the task and the thing that you're trying to take on board is the thing that's tough. But it's really important that you understand the way that you do it, whether it's to avoid procrastination, the specific in-classroom taking in, or the application process behind it. Once you master these things coupled with what you're looking towards achieving in 3 years, then it's just a matter of time before you start to achieving your goals and successes and stuff like that. Finally, tie your strengths to your values. So tying your strengths to your values, how many times have you heard of people who are incredibly good at a certain job or skill set, but they're just simply in the wrong industry? For example, the cliche story of a lawyer who's a really, really good lawyer, but he's in something like suing court. Now, because he's so good at his job, he's able to make a decent living, an incredible amount of money in suing court. I'm obviously using the wrong term, I'm sorry. I'm talking about the one where they're basically able to bend the law to their will when it's not necessarily morally correct. Now, although he's incredibly good at his job, it doesn't match his morals. So he ends up switching, and he might go to a different type of law in terms of like helping anyone and sort of people who aren't able to afford attorneys. He ends up doing that instead because he realizes that although the money was great, this doesn't lie with his values. So it talks about tying your skill set up with your values. That way that you always feel as if you're working towards something that you genuinely want to give back to the world. Or the opposite, if you're a very money-orientated person, maybe that might not matter, but if you're a very sort of giving, community-orientated person, if you can tie your skill set, for example, communication, looking towards teaching the kids, teaching the youths in the community, then you'd be able to have a drastic impact and you'll feel more fulfilled throughout your life. He talks about how the quote of finding what it is that you love and learning and do that, you'll never have to work your life. A more consistent one is finding out what you're good at and tie it to your morals and values. If you can do that consistently over an extended period of time, then you'll always feel fulfilled, and you'll never actually have those days where you don't feel like what you're working towards is something that you're actively wanting to be in. Because I noticed that a lot of people end up working in that way. And that way you can sort of substitute that, make sure that you're actively looking towards pursuing something that feels fulfilling and is actually tied in with your morals and values versus conflicting with that. So now that you have a lot of choices and everything like that, understand that you do need to make the choices. See, we live in an abundance of choice society. Back in the day, if your parents were farmers, you were going to be a farmer. If your parents was a barber, you were going to be a barber. If your parents were a baker, you were going to be a baker. Now, it's at the industry standard that you literally have the choice to be whatever it is that you want. That's something that we didn't have for years and years and years. So, because of that, there's an abundance of choice. An abundance of choice means that it's tough to make decisions. But what's important is that you're decisive. See, you can always bounce from industry to industry, especially here in Australia. So many pick up trades or do university degrees, find out that it's not for them. So it's important that you hedge first and understand what it is that you want to go into. But make sure that you're not undecisive, because not making a choice isn't a choice itself. Because certain industries do have certain intakes, and it might be more difficult to come in. And depending on how you learn, depending on the time frames, depending on being at the right time in the right place, it might dictate your industry choice and specifically the career path that you go down. So I highly suggest you, one, figure out what you're able to achieve in a 3-year period. Set out goals, mark your expectations, and understand how close you fall short or much you overshoot. Or who knows, you might be directly on the money, which is unlikely, but possible. Do that for 3 years in a row, so you can basically you can consistently judge what it is that you're able to actually accomplish in your life when it comes to goal planning. Next thing is, you can't build your fortune around your weaknesses. You can't build your fortune around your weaknesses. So make sure that it's important that you understand what it is that you're not good at and what it is that you are good at. Right, skill set wise specifically, right? Whether it's hobbies, and stuff like that, anything that you could personally pursue a career in, that's some of the stuff that you want to do. Now, and the easiest way to do that is by basically trying a bunch of stuff. If you live in Australia, you have the luxury of being able to try a bunch of different industries before you choose the one that you're going to pursue. So utilize that to the best of your ability to make sure that you don't make the wrong choices, and when it is that you commit, you can follow through with it and basically make a career out of it. Finally, understand what it is that your values, beliefs, and morals are. Because if you go into an industry that doesn't match your values, morals, or beliefs, then you're going to be conflicting the entire time. It might not be in the first year, it might not even be in the second, but at some point you might feel a lack of fulfillment, or that you might be spending your time in the wrong areas. The easiest way to understand your values and beliefs, I would suggest, is talking to people. See, our values and beliefs are developed around the people that we hang around and the people that we talk to. So if you've ever heard the saying that travel is the eye towards racism, then I highly suggest, if you have the ability to, you do look towards traveling. Maybe locally first, maybe outside of the country, depending on your financial situation, but it's a really awesome way to understand what your values, morals and beliefs are. Whether you are going to be a money-orientated person or a people-orientated person, or both, depending on which one it is, no matter what, it'll help you make a decision whenever it comes to choosing your career. Whether it's starting your own business, teaching others, pursuing a sport, pursuing an instrument, who knows? The only way to understand that is by first trying to understand yourself. Now understand, you will consistently change, and you might not get this done the first round. But if you have a consistent chart where you're able to monitor what it is that you're looking to accomplish, it can mitigate the time left when you don't know exactly what industry that you want to go into. You don't know what exactly the career you might want to go into. And who knows, you might even want to give it all up and just have kids. You won't know that unless you basically stop, reflect. Because the unfortunate thing is that if you don't make a choice is going to be made for you, either by your parents, your peers, or your circumstances. Although not making a choice isn't a choice in itself, reality, you get forced into a decision that you might not necessarily want to make. Now, in order to avoid that, the easiest way to do it is by attempting a bunch of things while you can, when it is low risk, understanding your morals and beliefs, and basically capitalizing on your strengths versus your weaknesses. Understand how you learn. If you can understand how you learn, then it makes this whole process faster and quicker. Right? Whether you're a visual learner, most people are, right? You're learning by someone speaking to them, by someone doing it first, whatever it is, and put yourself in the situations, depending on what skill you're trying to learn, that best capitalizes on your strengths and also best capitalizes on your learning ability. Meaning whatever classroom you're in, whatever mentorship, that program that you plug yourself into, or whatever industry that you're trying to get hands-on experience in, if you can capitalize on that, then everything will be a speed-up process. And no matter what, hopefully if you choose the right one and you do this all correctly, money will just follow. Because the thing that I've noticed in life is that if you develop your skills first, and you become a masterclass in whatever industry, if you be a professional money follows. You can make 7 figures doing just about anything these days. So if you focus, knuckle down, understand how you learn, capitalize on your strengths, maximize how you're learning, and tie it in with the beliefs, morals, and values, then it's just a matter of time before you'll experience a vast, increased level of success. Anyways guys, that's it for Quick Notes with Chris for managing oneself. But don't stop there, keep looking towards the other videos that we have on the channel, looking to improve and put yourself in a better position for success. If you like the new format, what we're talking about, like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend if you think this might benefit them in terms of maybe something that they're going through. But in that, guys, I'm Chris, and I'll see you in the next one.